it doesn't mean you know everything, but thinking ability is a protection. Hi, I'm James Lynch, and welcome to this Pop Books Update moment. Today is August the 18th, 2021, and right on the popbooks.com homepage, I have some video selections, ones I've made, and then there are also artists along with some astrophysicists or scientists, if you will, that I've featured on the homepage and sidebar today so that you will see the concept of how important it is to have thinking ability, critical thinking, and yes, having talent doesn't hurt either. And so let's talk about that because I also posted a short article about the importance of thinking ability as being a protection. You see, it doesn't mean you know everything, and it doesn't always know you will be able to avoid, something that you don't want to get involved with. But at least you're aware of what's going on. And sometimes you can actually make plans ahead of time to help yourself and help your situation. And so you also, if you go through something, then you learn from it as well. Now, let me share something with you about thinking ability because I did ask you, do you believe it is a protection? According to the good book, in Proverbs chapter 2, where it mentions about persons who would eventually find the very knowledge of God, it went on to talk about what the results would be. See, the benefits or the yield that would come from finding the very knowledge of God. I'm only going to read you several verses. And in chapter 2, verses 9 through 12. Notice this. It states, then you will understand what is righteous and just and fair. Keep verse 9 in mind. I'm going to keep reading, but I want you to keep what was just read in mind because I'm going to make a point in closing. It says the entire course of what is good. When wisdom enters your heart, and knowledge becomes pleasant to your soul, thinking ability will keep watch over you, and discernment will safeguard you to save you from the bad course. It also states in closing, from the man speaking perverse things. Now let's go right back to verse 9, where it says in Proverbs chapter 2, verse 9, then you will understand what is righteous and just and fair, the entire course of what is good. You see, some of the persons that I've actually featured from documentaries, even on the popbooks.com website, showed their videos to you and talked about them a little bit over the years. They at times will mention what's going on even with the educational system today. And they talk about, yes, all the way up until the college levels. Now, what I want to share is always is just because a person has gone to one of the colleges that actually has caused some, as these professors and these persons with experience and even sage-like experience in some cases have said that, hey, they actually have stripped the critical thinking ability out of a lot of persons in some of these, schools. I'm not mentioning any, and I'm not here to condemn any. I'm just stating to you, paraphrasing exactly what has been said many times. And so with that being said, some of the persons who have gone to these schools, when they hear that, they don't always feel too good. The first thing I want to say is, even if you are struggling at times to be able to see what critical thinking would help you to come to a conclusion on or not, it doesn't mean that you're dumb, see, because a lot of persons, when they go through those courses, They can add any type of number together. They can put together papers. Oh, they can express themselves, etc. So you're intelligent. Now, what they're mostly talking about, though, is the critical thinking helps you to apply what it talks about in verse 9 and verse 11 about the thinking ability. That's what it is, where you will understand what is righteous and just and fair. When you know that, then there may be times you're thinking about doing something. Why do you think I mentioned the Tuskegee medical experiments so much that happened all those years ago? Because they directly have a bearing today when persons are actually trying to develop medications and other things where they're just trying to see what happens if we throw this ball over here or the ball over there, or if we do this or do that. See, there's a conscience and moral dilemma that actually comes into play as well. When you have the knowledge of God and you read through these verses that gives you the righteous and just and fair understanding, then it helps you to see, you may want to do this, but this really doesn't apply in this case or scenario. And that's one of the reasons why I mentioned the Tuskegee medical experiments. I encourage you to go back and listen to it again if you haven't heard that. And the results that came from another report from Beth, who, she's a reporter, did a very thorough report on it, that during that time period, remember, a lot of people were naysayers and actually saying that, no, this wouldn't happen. No way in the world anybody with morals and ethics would allow this to happen, and go on and go on. And you mean to tell me they actually followed the persons around medically to stop them from getting the help they need? Hey, yes, it's a proven fact, you see. And when people hear that type of knowledge at times, it cracks them up because they just don't think persons are capable of doing something like that to another human being. Well, I could go back all the way to World War II if I wanted to state the atrocities that happened, that caused the Nuremberg codes, or the document to be written up about how you are to treat humans. It doesn't even matter whether you like them or not. This is the way humans are supposed to be treated. Well, according to God's word, according to Jesus as well, he shows too that there's a proper way to treat humans no matter what, even when you don't like them, even when you're trying to do something that you said is going to bring benefit to all. But you know what? If in the process you are not using the knowledge of God, you see, to keep your spirituality about yourself, your balance about yourself, your goodness about yourself, in order to actually do some type of experiment, if you will, or bad treatment or mismanagement of that person, then that is not the same conditions for doing it. You see, it is not the same type of environment. And sometimes people will actually observe or read something in the Bible and see that God did it himself, and that's the key. That's the key right there. There are still many actions in the Bible that God did himself. One, because he knew perfectly exactly what he was doing. But two, it goes to show that even these actions he carried out, God reserved those type of actions and judgments for himself, period, and not man. You see? And that's what people miss the point on at times, because they think, well, doesn't the Bible show us everything and what we're supposed to learn from? Yes, but there are still levels of authority that even goes into God's realm that he said, hey, I haven't given this to anyone, and I won't give it to anyone. So if you take it and if you do these things, you have put yourself, in the seat of where I'm actually at. God. You see God himself. And he warns against that. So it takes continuing to use your critical thinking. And I always encourage, read the good book and really, practice using your thinking abilities in other areas so that you can know what it says in Proverbs chapter 2, verse 9, where it says, then you will understand what is righteous and just and fair. The entire course of what is good. Because one, sometimes I mention about the survival of the fittest as well. Or the strongest or what have you, which a lot of people do ascribe to. And yet it has been so warped. Or maybe that's the way it was supposed to be when the person who originally came up with that concept, and I cannot remember who it was. I want to say Nietzsche, but I'm not sure. All the same, you can see more and more, it's more difficult, it seems, to do what is good than it is to treat somebody in a bad way or to be callous or cold towards somebody. So the point is, if you really want to say, hey, I want to be the best I can be, then try to be as nice as you can be. Try to once again be as gentle as you can be. That doesn't mean that you don't express yourself, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to get perturbed at times. No, but it's the outlook overall. And I share that because, again, thinking about the medical institutions, thinking about other persons who are caregivers and professors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and onward, you see, knowledge, according to the good book, says it puffs up, but love builds up. So this knowledge that humans get sometimes, and especially if they have a thinking ability to themselves, then it can do something, yes, even with curtailing or causing them to lose sometimes the conscious and ethical reason why we don't do certain things to other humans, just because we may have the power and, according to man-made institutions, the authority to do something, because it still doesn't mean that God agrees with this type of treatment. And as I said before, the environment or the conditions really don't fit towards what some have said. And so in closing, I just want to tell you, as a result, see, some of us, and sages alike, have seen persons who, highly intelligent, has some thinking ability and things of that nature, can actually plot out something that they want to do. And because of the experience of already seeing the results, that's why I mentioned Tuskegee, the medical experiments, as one. And also, remember I told you Bell's report on an experiment revisited, that these are the things we're supposed to learn from, so we don't have to go through it again. And I'm just sharing with you a point of my experience. See, you know me, in a minute, I'm going to say the Bible has everything that we need. But let's just even deal with documented history as one of the reasons why people try to erase history at times, so you can't learn from it, so that if you don't know what has happened and what was the result and what was the best way to handle it, then what? Critical thinking shows you, oh, I could probably be exploited in that way because I don't know any better. You see? So that's why we have the history books and these experiments, that many of them, everything has been done. You can learn from them and know how to proceed from there and know how to put the right conditions. You say, okay, this apply because these type of conditions we have right here. And I share this with you again because if persons do not get that point, then you can have, and I want to emphasize again, the Tuskegee medical experiments, where persons who seem sane, calm, proper, etiquette and everything else are still carrying out an atrocity that would be on the level of the old horror movies of like mad scientists. Now, am I lying? Then I must be flying. So the whole point is, thank you for being here. And remember, in the end of all matters, everything is going to work out. I just want you to always keep in mind, keep doing the best you can. The God in heaven knows exactly where each and every one of us are at in developing our relationship with the grand creator, the true God. You take care of yourself and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.